You know, I come in here and act decent and you turn me down. Well, I don't fucking believe that.
You're crazy.
Crazy? You want crazy? Well, I'll show you crazy.
"1985 happened before you even knew it. It was pure cinematic electricity. Neon optimism and Saturday morning magic rolled into 12 glorious months. If the 80s had a heartbeat, it was pounding the loudest in 1985. This was the year when movies, TV, toys, and video games didn't just entertain us, they defined what it meant to be alive. And roll the movies, because 1985 hit harder than a Rambo explosion. Teen Wolf gave us Michael J. Fox, pulling double duty that year. Not only was he flying through time and Back to the Future, he was dunking basketballs as a werewolf. It was the most only in the 80s premise ever. An average high school kid finds out he's part wolf and somehow becomes more popular. No one said anything about it. Turning into a beast made you better at sports and instantly cooler. Then came Enemy Mine. Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr. stranded on a hostile planet. One human, one alien, learning to survive and be friends. It was the kind of sci-fi movie that made you think deep thoughts like, maybe we weren't so different after all.
Must be a parent.
Protecting a life he values more than his own.
St. Elmo's Fire brought us the Brat Pack at their absolute peak. Young adults drinking, crying, and figuring out life. It was the perfect mix of drama and bad decisions that made you feel like every 20-something's crisis came with a killer sax solo.
Love's an illusion.
It's the only illusion that counts, my friend.
Says who?
Anyone who's ever been in love.
Love sucks.
So does your attitude.
National Lampoon's European Vacation gave us Chevy Chase, leading the Griswolds across Europe, proving that Americans abroad are a natural disaster. They wrecked cars, insulted locals, and took the worst family photos ever. And somehow, we still wanted to go on vacation with them.
Brie? Brie? Votre fille? Un petit cul? Just a little Brie, yeah. And, well, we'll get that later. Merci beaucoup.
Then there was The Ghoulies, the little monster movie that made everyone terrified about using the bathroom. They'll get you in the end, was the tagline, and that wasn't metaphorical. They were literally in the toilet. The 80s didn't need CGI to scare you. It just needed a rubber puppet and bad plumbing. Spies Like Us gave us once again Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, bumbling through Cold War espionage like two interns who accidentally launched a nuclear missile. It was chaos, it was hilarious, and it made you realize that the only thing scarier than global politics was putting these two in charge.
Doctor? Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
And Doctor.
And of course, Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Sylvester Stallone returned with more muscles, more explosions, and a bow that fired grenades. Every guy who saw that movie immediately started tying red bandanas around their heads and doing push-ups in the living room. Subtlety was dead, and we were fine with that. TV in 1985 was just as unstoppable. Saturday mornings were the event. We weren't scrolling, we were waiting for Star Wars droids and Star Wars Ewoks, the animated adventures that filled the galaxy between toy commercials. Droids gave us C-3PO and R2-D2 in their own slapstick misadventures, while Ewoks made the forest moon of Endor feel like your backyard, if your backyard had spear-wielding teddy bears fighting space villains. These shows were bright, weird, and unapologetically fun. The purest proof that Star Wars wasn't just a trilogy, it was a lifestyle. How about those toys? Because 1985 was an all-out arms race for our imaginations. The G.I. Joe, a real American hero Mauler tank, was the crown jewel. This thing was enormous. Twin cannons, motorized treads, and enough plastic armor to survive a small war. You weren't just playing soldiers, you were commanding an army. When you rolled that tank across the carpet, even the dog moved out of the way. And then we had the video games. 1985 was when gaming became forever. Racing Destruction Set for the Commodore 64 was a masterpiece of early gaming chaos. You could build your own racetracks, add jumps, ice, lava, whatever your twisted mind wanted, and then crash in an amazing fashion. It was creativity, competition, and carnage all rolled into one floppy disk. We weren't just players, we were game designers, stunt drivers, and digital mad scientists. But the real legend of 1985, Super Mario Bros. On the NES. When that cartridge clicked in and that music started, it felt like the whole world changed. It was colorful, fast, and full of secrets. The warp pipes, the mushrooms, the flagpole, all burned into our collective memory forever. Beating Bowser wasn't just a win, it was a spiritual awakening. And when you found that first warp zone, you felt like a hacker before hacking was even a thing. Mario Brothers turned living rooms into tournaments and every neighborhood into an unofficial high-score war. The NES wasn't just a console, it was revolutionary, sitting under every TV like a portal to another world. The feeling of 1985 was hard to describe, but easy to remember. It was the year optimism was painted in neon. Everything had an edge of adventure, even the mundane. Movie posters looked like comic book covers, every toy looked like a recruitment ad, and every TV show theme song got stuck in your head for life. It was also the year pop culture stopped apologizing for being big. Movies had booming soundtracks, TV shows had unforgettable themes, toys had laser turrets for no reason, and video games had plumbers saving princesses with turtle shells. We laughed at spies like us, we cringed at goalies, we saluted Rambo, and we believed a werewolf could dunk a basketball. We turned into Ewoks and droids, we rolled our G.I. Joe tanks into battle, and we blew into the NES cartridge to make sure they worked. 1985 wasn't just another year, it was the spark that lit a decade's worth of imagination. It gave us bigger heroes, louder explosions, stranger cartoons, and better games that we'd ever seen before. Everything felt like the beginning of something, and for once, it was. That's why, decades later, we still look back at it with the same grin, because deep down, we know the truth. 1985 wasn't just good, it was the best year ever.
This bug's for you.